Nintendo World Championships NES Edition has many challenges, 156 to be exact. Some of them are very fun, creative, and challenging, but not all challenges are created equal. Some of them are uninspired, annoying, too easy, too dull, or too long and boring. With so many challenges of varying levels of quality, it makes sense to see which one is the best and rank every challenge in Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. So like I said a little bit ago, what makes a challenge good is if it's fun, creative, and challenging. And what makes a challenge bad is if they're uninspired, annoying, too easy, too dull, or too long and boring. Which is not to say that long challenges are bad, it's just to say that if your challenge is long, it better be entertaining. But on top of that, you also want your challenge to be fun throughout your time playing it. What I mean by that is while you're playing, you'll gradually improve your time, so you want the challenge to be fun when you start out, while you're learning, and after you already know the fastest way to beat it. For any challenge, if it doesn't meet these requirements, it's likely gonna rank pretty low. Now, I'll try to be brief with my rankings, and I'll only go into great detail if the challenge requires it. With that, the explanation is out of the way and we're ready to begin ranking with number 156. Undoubtedly the worst challenge in the entire game is Crumbling Crossing. This challenge is basically just doing 2 easy jumps, walking for 8 seconds, doing 1 more easy jump, and that is it. To be honest, I'm not even sure why this challenge exists because it's impossible not to get world record time as long as you don't let go of left. I wanted to talk quite a bit about this challenge since it's the worst one, but there's nothing much to say. What you see is what you get. There's just nothing good about this challenge, so that's why it's the worst. 155, Paratroopa Toppling. Okay, let's see what this challenge is all about. Oh, that's it. Well, that was short, boring, and easy to get world record, and that's why it's the second worst challenge in the game. 154, Bottom Rung. This one just has you moving to the right and pressing up to climb on a ladder to complete normally. As for world record time, did you see it? No? Let me slow it down. Yes, that's right, you have to get carpal tunnel in your thumb or fingers, I don't know the strategy, to do 3 frame-perfect inputs to move just a little bit closer to save 100 milliseconds. So it's easy, not fun and boring normally, and it is challenging when you're more advanced, but it's still boring and not fun. This is also a good time to say that all of the world records I feature in this video will be in the description so you can see the full run from the original speedrunner. 153, Rescue Operation. This one's a little challenging because you have to precisely time your movement. Besides that, it's just super boring. In fact, even the game devs know how much this challenge sucks because in World Championship number 18 they had this challenge, and in the survival mode they didn't even have this challenge playable. They knew that it would be too boring for people to play in the action-packed survival mode, which was a good call by them. 152, Don't Go Alone. Most of this one is spent waiting for the old man to finish his iconic sentence, and while it's iconic, it gets repetitive when you listen to it more than once. The rest is just walking into the cave, which is easy, and then after that, walking to the sword would be difficult if there wasn't an easy way to grab it every single time. That way is by holding right when you walk in and holding right and up on the D-pad to walk straight into the sword. 151, Fairy Finder. I'm sure by now that you can see that the Zelda 2 challenges aren't very good, and do I even need to say why this one is bad? Because I really don't think I do. The only good thing about this one is that it doesn't waste your time at all because it can be beaten in less than a second. 150 is Veggie Plucking, which is also pretty self-explanatory as to why it's bad. The only kinda good thing about this one is that for some reason it was very hard, at least for me, to shave off that 0.01 seconds, so that gave it some replay value. 149, Pop It. The only way to go faster on this one is to press B right after you drop off the platform, and that's basically it. 148, Staircase Race. This one is fun, but it is mind-numbingly easy. 147, Step It Up. Also pretty fun, but still easy to do. The reason it's marginally better is because there's a more advanced strategy of doing a fast acceleration at the start, which adds some much needed challenge. Not only is it challenging this way, but it's extremely difficult because there are 4 frame perfect inputs to do, with the world record holder stating that it took them 5 hours to accomplish this. So big props to WolfAeterni. 146, Low-Key Hero. This one is long and kinda boring and kinda easy. Kinda boring because you're doing a lot of things, but it's kind of easy. Kind of easy because it looks like I'm doing the same stuff as the world record, but my time is still slower. This one's weird to rank, but ultimately it's just not super fun, so that's why it's here. 145. Hammer Hustle. This is just very boring with no enemies or barrels getting in the way of grabbing the hammer. 144. Inhale Without Fail. The only difficulty in this challenge is that you have to press right twice to run. What you'll find is that the Kirby challenges, at least in my opinion, are some of the hardest challenges in the game, and the double tapping to sprint only makes it harder. 143. Quick Copy. This one's similar to the last one, but now we jump before inhaling the enemy. 142. Spa Treatment. For this one, you have to perfectly time jumping out of the spa when your health is full. At least for me, I went through 3 stages of emotions when playing this one. First, I thought it was really boring sitting in the spa for 3 seconds. Then I thought it was sorta enjoyable to time jumping out of the spa, but when I kept trying to improve my time, it got boring again. 141. Leveling Up. This one is similar to the last one, where you have to press start as soon as possible when the level up menu comes up. With this one though, it's shorter and you're constantly moving, so it's a little better. 140. Finders Keepers. This challenge is the first of 5 challenges where all you do is walk. Yeah, all you do is walk and complete the challenge. This one is certainly the worst of all of them because there's virtually no difficulty whatsoever, which makes this extremely boring. 139. Wheels Down. The only reason that this one is better than the last one is because there's actually some difficulty here with trying not to fall off the edge and at the end when you're trying to stop your momentum to get into the door. Besides that, you're just wheeling through here the whole time. 138. Construction Destruction. Very similar to Finders Keepers, but this time there's more challenge because of this very precise turnback that you can do to not waste any time jumping over the hole that breaking the floor makes. If it wasn't for this though, this challenge might be one of the bottom 5 challenges because it's so long and while I'm playing it I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep. 137. Beneath the Hollow Tree. This one has us doing this funny little diagonal shimmy move to save time, which is pretty funny and makes this long walk somewhat fun. 136. Take Heart. Basically the same thing as the last one, but now we have to use a bomb at the end, which is fun. Thankfully, this is the last of the Walk Endlessly challenges. Good thing 135. Sink or Swim has us endlessly swimming! Yay! Phew, for a second I thought we were actually gonna have a fun challenge. But no, it's just doing this for more than 30 seconds with maybe 1 or 2 fireballs you have to shoot. Most water levels in Mario games are just not fun, and this one is no different. I mean, really, when have you ever heard someone say, "Oh yeah, the water levels in Mario games are my favorite"? If I heard that, I'm running away as fast as possible because I'm not trying to become their next victim. Also, nothing against you if you actually like water levels, by the way, you're just kind of weird. 134. Dive Master. Oh hey, this is interesting. Another water level. This one has us actually doing stuff though, some pretty fun and challenging stuff too. Until you get about 18 seconds through and you can just stay at the top pressing A for, well, 18 seconds. This one was super hard to rank because the first 18 seconds are really cool and the last 18 seconds is this. This one and the last one are kinda interchangeable as for which one's worse, but at least in this one you're doing something for a little bit, so in my eyes it's slightly better. 133. Power Grab Bomb. For this one you're just button mashing and then doing a somewhat difficult jump to grab the bomb. It's alright, but there's another one that's coming up that's similar to this one but longer. 132. Power Grab Morph Ball. For some reason this challenge annoys me, and I really don't know why because it's just fine. And no, it's not because my mom beat me at the challenge the first time I played it. Probably. 131. Power Grab Screw Attack. This is the longer challenge that's similar to Power Grab Bomb that I was talking about, with there being a few jumps before you get to the missile door and upgrade box. 130. Subspace Exploration. Not much to say here other than it's okay. 129. Taking Flight. Now don't get me wrong, this one is actually pretty fun, but it just doesn't really need to exist because there's 2 challenges coming up that have you do this in those challenges anyways. And I get that you would want a challenge like this to refine your time on a difficult challenge, but this challenge really isn't that difficult to get an almost perfect time on, so I'm just kinda confused about it. 128. Aquamentus Argumentus. This fight is pretty difficult, but whether I dodge these fireballs or do the more advanced strategy of getting hit by them, I find absolutely no enjoyment in this battle. To be honest, I like the name of the challenge more than the challenge itself. 127, Knuckle Sandwich. This one is pretty fun to defeat this enemy so long as you know to drop down as you attack to make sure you don't hit his shield. 126, Eggplant Harm. Defeating these eggplant guys is actually pretty fun and fairly challenging, but this is one of the only challenges that I wish was shorter, because after you go through the door you have to do the exact same thing. Why? What was a fun challenge was ruined by not stopping when you go through the door. It makes it unnecessarily long and repetitive. Sure, it makes it more difficult, but it was already pretty difficult, so it just makes it more boring. Anyways, the name of this challenge is really good again. 125, Fire in the Hole. Short, sweet, but not much really going on. 124, A Secret to Everybody. Same idea as the last one, but it's much more fun to try and perfectly throw the flame to the bush than to use the bomb. 123, Quick Draw. It's pretty easy to figure out the fastest way to do this one, and it's fairly fun to execute. 122, Cliff Jumping. This one is fun enough, but it starts to get boring the more you play it. 121, Balloon Bopper. This one has you fighting some enemies, which is pretty fun to do, but there's an even faster strategy of waiting until you're about this high so that you can pop all of their balloons before they've even inflated them, which is pretty funny. 120, Door to Door. This one feels like one of those dropper games that you could play in Minecraft, and it's really fun here too, trying to make sure not to hit the ground. The only problem is that it's way too easy to get world record. I mean, if I can get a world record time within about 8 attempts, then it must be easy. 119, Shivery Start. This challenge is about perfectly precise timing with your jumps, which is actually pretty fun. Now, there are some challenges that have you do this part and more, but unlike taking flight, this one is actually difficult, so it's nice to be able to try to shave off those fractions of a second, especially because when it's a longer challenge, you might not want to risk every attempt trying to get frame perfect timing, but when it's shorter, you really have no choice but to go for it. 118, Goodbye Goomba. Here we defeat this thing. Hooray. 117, No Bones About It. Here we defeat a spooky, scary skeleton. You can even stab the wall at the start to speed up, which is a pretty neat trick. 116, Water Divination. Just like taking flight, this one doesn't really have too much reason to exist because there's a challenge that has you beating the whole level. Also, out of all the parts in this level to make you play, they picked this part? The part where you're too fast for the screen to scroll so you have to slow down to not bonk your head on the top of the screen? I do think it's really funny that this challenge has you collecting wine though. And we do know that it's supposed to be wine because in the Japanese release of Kid Icarus it's called the sake of life, but when the game was released to Western audiences they called it the water of life. Yeah, nice try Nintendo, but tell me what kind of water is red? I guess apparently the water of life is. 115, Magic Jar Excavation. Trying to cancel your sword dive to hit the block and jar is fun and reasonably difficult. 114, Run for Your Money. This one's simple, kinda difficult, but there's nothing really special about it. 113, Gut Bomb. For this one, you can do the normal strategy of making the Dodongo eat 2 bombs, which is somewhat fun, or there's the advanced strategy of placing a bomb and then thrusting your sword to defeat it instantly, which looks really cool. 112, Question Mark Block Party. Hit 5 question mark blocks. It's simple but effective and addicting. 111, Over and Out is overall just boring, because if you hold right and jump when you get to the end of a platformer when you see an enemy, it is impossible to lose and it's really easy, so the only challenge comes from the end of the level where you have to do this turnaround to grab the rocket. So this is a challenge where only about 3% of it is actually difficult and actually matters. 110, Barrel Roll! This is the first level of Donkey Kong, which is awesome, which is great. It's a classic level and it's fun to play through. The thing that sucks is to get the fastest time possible, you have to do this weird glitch where you climb on an invisible ladder, which is not very fun to do. Now, speedrunning glitches can be really fun to do, like the wrong warp or backwards long jump, which are infamous. It's just that doing this isn't cool at all. So on one hand, you have the first level of Donkey Kong, great, and then you have this where you shimmy back and forth like an idiot. So I'd like to put it higher, but as we said at the start of the video, the challenge has to be fun from start to finish, and this challenge fails miserably at that. Who could have imagined that a 43-year-old game would have crazy glitches like this? 109, Updraft. We fly up on this wind and try to time our landing to go on the ground as fast as possible to get into the door. Altogether, pretty fun. 108, Looky Tanuki. We fall down here to hit the block with the Tanuki suit in it and become a furry. 107, Half Pipe. This one is fun but a little bit bland. 106, Seek and Destroy. Run up to the snakes and defeat them. Fun. 105, Power Grab Missile. You run and shoot whatever is in your way to get to the missiles. It's fun, but there's just not much going on. 104, Loose Change. This one is difficult, so it's very satisfying when you finally get a good time. 103, Coin Collector. Same idea, but this one we collect a 3, which is more interesting. 102, Monster Slayer. For this one, you can go either to the left or to the right to defeat the enemies, with the right side being faster. Both sides are fun though. 101, Key of the Keys. Here we become expert 360 no-scopers and show these keys the power of sword beams. 100, Octorok Onslaught. This one is great to try and figure out the fastest way to complete it, and the fastest way to complete it is crazy, which is pretty fun. 99, Up and Out. Now these vertical platform hallways are the main reason why I don't really like playing the original Metroid, because it gets repetitive the more you do this, and you do it a lot. With that being said, trying to go as fast as possible and dodge or defeat the enemies is actually pretty fun. 98, Rebonac Attack. This one has you sword diving onto the Rebonac so that he gets knocked off his horse so you can finish him off. The only problem is that for 3/4 of the challenge, you're walking through this hallway and waiting for bro to show up. I mean, couldn't they have started us right in the middle of the boss fight room so that the battle would start right when the challenge starts? That would shave off 4 seconds and make this challenge a lot more bearable to replay. 97, Not Lichin' It. This is the first of 4 grab the mushroom challenges, but for this one we're grabbing a poison mushroom. Ooh. This one is definitely the worst out of the bunch, because if you don't do a fast acceleration, you're just running for 3 seconds to easily grab the mushroom. 96, Harp on It. This one, just like water divination, doesn't really need to exist, because again, you're just playing a part of a level that one of the challenges has you complete fully anyways. But this one is actually fun, unlike water divination. 95, Death Mountain Duel. Whether you go around the water to stab the Lionel, or you go over here to hit the Lionel with your sword beams, this one is sort of fun. 94, The Body Will Follow. The fight with the Hydra, for me at least, is pretty difficult, and it's decently fun to try and dodge their attacks. 93, Breakdown. This one is like Door to Door, but more difficult, is what I would say if this route didn't exist, which makes this game pretty easy again. But it's still not as easy as Door to Door, and before you know what you're doing, it's pretty difficult. So it's not terrible, but it could have been much better. 92, Mush Zoom 2. This is another grab the mushroom challenge, and this one is fun because you can either jump onto these blocks and drop down to grab the mushroom, or you can do the faster strategy of jumping on this Goomba to hit the block. 91, the first challenge in the game, Mush Zoom. Here you can try to jump over this Goomba to hit the mushroom block, which feels kinda clunky to do. The good thing is that you can also jump over this block and onto the Goomba to get the mushroom, which is very satisfying to do correctly. 90, Mush Zoom 3. Here there are 3 ways to complete this challenge. The first way is to hit the mushroom block and then hit the block near it to push it out of this box. The second way is to hit the mushroom block, go on these blocks, and then jump into the box. The last way is to hit the block and do a super smooth turnaround jump to get the mushroom. It's fun to find out new strategies that have you get a faster time, and that's why it's the best out of the mushroom grab challenges. 89, Pitcher Perfect. This one is all about precision, where we destroy these pitchers one by one, which makes this challenging and enjoyable. 88, Jumping Jacks. Here we're just beating the second level of Donkey Kong, but this time there's no invisible ladder shenanigans, so it's fun. 87, Lost and Found. This one's a little more creative than the last one since we're collecting both of these items. 86, Egg Toss. I've always thought that fighting Birdo is just super slow. Like, after I throw the egg at Birdo, I don't want to be standing here like a yutz waiting for Birdo to shoot another egg at me, so I would have preferred if the fight was faster paced. This isn't even to mention the time it takes to run over to the battle and the time you have to wait for the statue to open its mouth after grabbing the orb. Overall, this challenge feels really sluggish to play. I probably would have put it lower on this list, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it considering how iconic this battle is and the fact that it made Birdo a fan favorite character. I don't think there's a world where they wouldn't add this as a challenge, and I know that there are people who love this fight, I'm just not one of them. 85, Specknose Spectacle. This one has all these little annoying things flying around, which is pretty chaotic, but that's what makes it fun. The funniest way to do it is to stay at the start and wait for all of these guys to come at you and then shoot them all in rapid succession using this duck shoot weird technique. I don't even know. It looks funny though. 84, Bonus or Bust. For the Ice Climber challenges, I'll try to be fair with ranking them, but truthfully, I just don't enjoy playing Ice Climber. For this one, we're just playing through levels 5 to 8 on Ice Climber with annoying ice physics. Who could have imagined that the game called Ice Climber would have ice in it? I mean, that is honestly mind-blowing. 83, Arctic Ascent. This has us playing levels 1 through 4, with the main difference being that there are no ice physics, so I think it's more fun than the last one. 82, Peak Performance. There's no breaking blocks in this challenge, which for some reason I find more fun. 81, cool it. After 75 challenges, almost halfway through, we finally come to the first Excitebike challenge. All of the Excitebike challenges are really good considering this game is made for going as fast as possible. I mean, it's a racing game, and the fact that it's taken us this long to get to one proves that all of the challenges are super awesome. This one is a real test of bravery, with you waiting as long as you possibly can before repeatedly pressing the A button to make sure that you don't crash out from holding your turbo too long so that you can get to the ramp, do a jump, and finish a track. This is also a good challenge to get people familiar with the controls and gameplay of Excitebike, which some people, like me, might not be used to. 80. Nayslayer. Since this time the boss doesn't take forever to come out, we just get to have a nice fun fight. 79. Avoid the Metroids. It's pretty fun to ice all these Metroids and make sure that they don't suck your life, and this last Metroid you have to let it latch onto you so that you can shoot it to dodge it, which is a neat trick. 78. Destroyer of Dreams. We are halfway through, and for this one we have to blow the totally tubular mouse Mauser to smithereens. Because it's the late 80s, and if you don't have a gnarly pair of shades, do you even exist? So unlike Birdo, Mauser is very fast and he hurls bombs at you every chance he gets, which means that I actually have fun with this fight. And the fact that you can pick up this bomb before going into the battle so that you only have to grab 2 bombs from Mauser is a nice time save. 77. Desert Dash. This one is fine enough and just has you running through the desert with grabbing the snake, making it so that you don't sink in the quicksand, which I don't know how you'd know about unless you're a master at this game or you saw it on speedrun.com like I did. 76. Wizrobe Warrior. The Wizrobes teleporting around makes this challenge very interesting, but kinda annoys me. But if you go so fast that they don't have much time to teleport around, then it becomes fun. 75. Every Last Eggplant. For this one, there's a few different paths that you can take to collect all the eggplants, with the fastest way making use of 2 cloud platforms. The second platform you have to jump on is super hard to catch before it goes away, but it saves a good amount of time. 74. Pop 'em. Doing this movement to hit the balloons feels really smooth and satisfying to do. 73. Super Leaf in the Wind. Jump over the hills to not lose any speed and then jump down to grab the Super Leaf. It's simple but effective and addicting. 72. Shoe Lakitu. This one is a classic level. It's just super easy, since if you keep running, Lakitu isn't even a problem, with the only bit of challenge coming from the fast acceleration at the start. 71. Hammer Bro KO. The way this challenge works is that the chest will spawn on the opposite side of where Mario is. So you could defeat the Hammer Bro with the fireball, but then the chest will spawn on the other side and you will have enough momentum to get a fast time. You can also go under the Hammer Bro to break the block that's below him, which gets you a pretty good time. But the easiest way to get the fastest time is actually to just jump right onto the Hammer Bro and then run to the left. You just have to make sure that you're not too close to the left side or else the chest will spawn on the right side. So it's a nice challenge to try and be as close as possible to the chest without making it spawn far away. 70. Coconut Rush. This one honestly feels like you're going through one of those spy mazes, going under the coconuts, jumping over the slope, going under the coconuts, and dodging the enemies. It's all very hectic, especially if you slide off this platform at the start, which sends you zooming faster than a freight train. Overall, this one's a blast to play. 69. Ship Shape. We get to use the hammer in this one, which is great because the hammer feels awesome to use in speedruns. 68. Leap to the Peak. Jumping perfectly at the right height off of these ninjas makes for a great challenge. Now, if only Nintendo added these things to Mario Party. Ooh! 67. Exit Stage Right. If you remember earlier, I said that taking flight was just a shorter version of 2 upcoming challenges. Well, here's the medium-length one. This one is really cool because you might think that to get the fastest time, you just dodge all of the enemies and go into the door, and that is good for a fast time, but if you're going for world record speed, then you'll actually want to hit the enemies, which sounds weird, but it makes sense. So basically, the NES is kinda slow at reading data, and if there's too many things on the screen, the NES goes into overdrive trying to figure out what should be where. Since the NES needs more time to process data, it slows down the game so it can read everything it needs to. But if we bump into the enemies, it defeats them, and with invulnerability frames, we can run into other enemies and not get slowed down. Every time we defeat an enemy, that's just one less thing that the NES has to read, which reduces the lag. So this is really cool, but again, since this is just a segment of a challenge that you'll play in full anyways, just like taking flight, this one doesn't really need to exist. 66. Firefight. Now, it's fun enough to wait for Barba, yes, that's its official name, to poke out its head so that you can stab it, but what's even more fun is this. It may not look fun to mash the down button, and button mashing in Power Grab Bomb wasn't the most fun, but it's better here because you have to time when to jump before you mash, so it becomes addicting to try and improve your time. 65, Balloon Burster. We're popping more enemies' balloons, but now there's 2 more enemies who we actually have to fight in the air since we can't pop their balloons on the ground. Overall, it's a good fight. 64, Balloon Basher. We pop even more enemies' balloons, but this time there are a few routes that you can take to defeat the enemies, but the path that's on screen right now is the fastest and looks the coolest. Especially because the walls can give you some pretty big bounces and launch you straight into your target, which I think is awesome. 63, Beat the Heat. It's the Angry Sun! Now this one looks and feels awesome to play, and it is. It's very enjoyable, especially when you get shot into the atmosphere with this twister. However, this one is super easy for a hard challenge. In fact, it's so easy that you can fail because of staying in the air too long by getting launched by this twister. Yeah, you can stay in the air for 4 seconds, skipping past a good chunk of the level, and then you'll lose all of your speed, which I think is hilarious that that's even possible. And there are some Super Mario Bros. 3 challenges that are insanely difficult, but this is not one of them. 62, Curtain Call Lemmy. This is the first of 7 challenges where we fight each and every Koopaling. The Lemmy battle is certainly the worst out of the bunch because doing it normally is a tiny bit boring because Lemmy stays in one spot, and that's not to mention that you can just jump once and not even move to defeat him. That's right, you only need to press one button to beat Lemmy. Flying up to the wand and grabbing it off screen is somewhat cool, but not enough to save the lackluster fight. 61, Dark Nut Dust Up. This one has the same feel as Wizrobe Warrior with a bunch of different ways to defeat the enemies, but this one doesn't annoy me. The fastest way to do it feels so fluid and smooth, it's really fun to do. 60, Deadeye. Here we can dodge these attacks until we get our opening to shoot Deadeye in the eye, or we could just be very fast and move like this to defeat him in 1.5 seconds. 59, Condor Conqueror. It's all the segments of Ice Climber that we played previously, but now we grab the Condor, which is cool, and like I said before, I don't really enjoy Ice Climber, but I can respect people who can do this fast because I sure as heck can't. 58, Perilous Piranhas. The normal strategy is tail swiping all of these piranha plants and then jumping like a toddler on these music blocks, which is already pretty hard to do, but the advanced strategy is kinda bonkers. So we tail swipe the first plant, but instead of swiping the next one, we just want to get hit by it, so that after running here, we gain enough P-speed to go straight through the plant with our still active invincibility frames. Then we jump off this music block note and then jump off the paratroopa to perfectly slide down into the pipe. This one is pretty difficult, but it's just not my favorite to replay. 57, Rotary Rush. Here you have to do a mix of half jumps, full jumps, tap jumps, and if you hit one of these spinning platforms while it's still spinning, you'll be thrown into Last Wednesday. So this one sort of frustrates me, but it also encourages me to try harder, and these stupid spinning. 56, Froggy Paddle. So it's another water level, and it is more bearable than SMB 1 and 2's water levels because of the frog suit, but come on guys, it's still a water level and the frog suit feels super sluggish on land. 55, The Big Race. This one is difficult and has a few different routes that you can take, so I like it. 54, Lost Legend. The first 9 seconds of this level are pretty easy, but then it takes a full 180 and becomes pretty difficult with this wind, which makes it difficult to jump on this trampoline to get all the way over the wall and the water. Also, I think it's funny that you can do a wall jump to get over the water, even though it's not very practical because it takes all of your momentum away. It doesn't end there though, because you have to jump on this paratroopa to hit the block with the vine in it. After that, you're just waiting for the vine to go up, which is kinda boring. 53, Kaboom Boom. Hit Boom Boom's head 3 times to win. It's simple but effective and addicting. 52, Curtain Call Roy. We're back with the Koopalings, and this time they're all in a row, so I'll try to be as quick as possible since these are all pretty much the same thing with 1 or 2 small changes. Personally, I find it more interesting when the Koopalings jump high, so this one is just a little boring for me, and the layout of the floor doesn't really make it any better. 51, Curtain Call Iggy. Nothing wrong with the boss here, but I just don't really like the layout of the floor. It just doesn't feel right to fight on. 50, Curtain Call Ludwig. Another one where they don't jump high, but here the layout is better. 49, Curtain Call Larry. This is the first most basic Koopaling fight. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing spectacular about it. 48, Curtain Call Wendy. Same as the Larry fight, but now we have to dodge rings. 47, Curtain Call Morton. Now even though Morton is my favorite Koopaling, I assure you that there was no bias in my decision to name it the best Koopaling fight, because this one jumps really high and has a super interesting floor layout. On top of that, the top 3 speedruns for this challenge all have you doing this crazy double wall jump to get the wand, and I know that it isn't exclusive to this fight, but I think maybe it works the best here or else people would be using them in the other battles. 46, Heating Up. This one is a nice simple race. The only reason it's not higher on the list is because it's so simple with nothing much to talk about. 45, Busting Up Bonkers. Here we have to fight a crazy gorilla and dodge his hammer attacks. Every time Bonkers misses, we get stars to throw at him, which is fun enough, but the fast strategy of running into him to bait him into whiffing an attack is really awesome and feels great to do. 44, Bombs Away. We've got another Kirby fight on our hands, this time with this little wizard boy who throws bombs. We have these flying enemies who we can inhale to get some starting damage on Poppy before finishing him off with his own bombs. The faster way to do this one is kinda crazy and has you inhaling these 2 enemies and then dropping off this ledge and shooting the enemies. After running here for a little bit, you jump up and inhale the last enemy and throw it. Wow. 43, Eye in the Sky. Here we have to try and go wherever Kracko is going to jump right into his eye, while we also make sure to jump high enough to dodge the lightning. 42, Axe to the Grind. This is the first castle level, and this one's fun enough, but it's kinda short and the jumps are a little easy. 41, Whale of a Time. Here we're jumping on whales and dodging water spurts to get to the rocket. It's a good enough challenge, and I like the fact that you can jump off of the whale's fins. 40, Ridley Riddance. Here we go through this hallway, jumping on these pillars and defeating enemies. After we do all that, we go through this door and fight Ridley. While yes, the fight is just button mashing, it's not terrible to do, and if you damage boost, then you can save a small amount of time. 39, Kraid Raid. This one starts straight out the gate, very hectic, with many enemies in your way, so you have to figure out how to defeat them all. After shooting this missile door, we go into the Kraid fight, which is button mashing, but it's really cool because you can freeze a spike on Kraid's head so you can run into it without getting hurt. By doing this, you can now pump missiles into Kraid's face at point blank distance without going past him, which I think is really funny. 38, Kong Crusher. It's the 3 levels in Donkey Kong for NES, so it's great, but I never realized how much more fun it is trying to play slowly and get a high score rather than a fast time, considering that the first level has the invisible ladder glitch and the last level is kinda boring. 37, Cloud Top Climb. We have to precisely stop our jump when we get above the platform to not waste any time descending. There's a cool time save if you jump up here and then jump into the left wall to screen wrap. The only thing that makes this one a little hard to play is that you need to wait for the screen to scroll. It's not enough to ruin this challenge, but it's not ideal. 36, New Heights. Same idea as the last one, but there's no screen scroll and you can also reduce lag by defeating enemies. 35, 1-on-1-1. It's 1-1 from Super Mario Bros., arguably the most iconic and recognizable level in all of gaming history. I wish I could have put it higher, but I have to be fair because there are a lot of challenges that are better than this one. 34, In the Zone. 1-2 is always an interesting level to try and do fast, so I don't really have anything bad to say. 33, Unidentified Flying Kirby. The first 8 or so seconds of this one are pretty boring, but then shooting this guy and shooting these blocks is pretty cool, and maneuvering through this area is pretty challenging and fun. 32, Pop 'em All. There are a lot of different ways to go about popping... Did I write pooping these balloons? What the hell is wrong? There are a lot of different ways to go about popping all of these balloons, which gives it a lot of replay value. The fastest way to do it is super difficult, and I couldn't even get close to doing it quickly. Regardless, this one's a blast. 31, 1-1 of a Kind. This one is very fun to run through with a lot of difficult jumps. You can actually gain P-speed right at the start if you do this tricky turn-back jump over this piranha to fly through the whole level super quickly. 30, Mario vs 1-1. Here we have some crazy precise jumps to do, like this very tight jump underneath this paratroopa. Or this one where there's a piranha plant in the pipe and you have to do an insane pipe jump. Sometimes there isn't any piranha plant here though, and I'm not really sure what manipulates the plant to not be there, so that's strange. 29, Luigi vs 1-1. It's the same level as the last challenge, but now we're playing as Luigi, so it's automatically better. Bias aside, it actually is better, because in the last challenge you can just go under this paratroopa, but Luigi can't since his acceleration speed is slower, so that means it's viable to do this. Whee! 28, Cash Grab. Finding the best route to collect the necessary number of coins we need, and this jump at the end is pretty fun. The only thing that's not so great is waiting to go into 1-2. It takes about 20 seconds to do, which doesn't feel as bad when you play through the whole game, but when almost half the challenge you're not doing anything, it's kind of a problem. The only reason it's even this high on the list is because the parts that you do play are very enjoyable. 27, Fireball Rush. This challenge is straight to the point with us fireballing over these gaps, and there's just something so satisfying when you play this one. 26. Walloping Wispy Woods. After jumping on down, we start to fight Wispy. It's a classic fight where we inhale and spit out enemies at the big funny tree. There's a lot of different ways you can go about getting the apples to spit at Wispy, so you gotta find out which way is the fastest. That being waiting until the apples get close to the other apples so that it's possible to inhale them both at once, which does extra damage to Wispy. 25. Cheep Cheep Chase. There are also some tricky jumps under and over these Cheep Cheeps, which keeps the level difficult. 24. Quick Step. Here we're hopping around with this silly little Goomba shoe that lets us jump on spiky enemies. Also, you can even jump in the air with the Goomba shoe, which isn't really helpful anywhere, but it's a fun technique to do nonetheless. Down this pipe you have to jump off all these enemies to make it through, which feels pretty cool to do. 23. Escape Expert. This might be a little higher than some people would put it, but I personally really like this one, and it's not actually, in my opinion, hindered by the fact that it's repetitive because it makes you focus more on precision and accuracy. It reminds me of Getting Over It, where you gotta keep going up, and if you fall it hurts your soul. 22. Evasion is key. In this one, I can show you the world. Or I could just jump off of these flying enemies like the madman Luigi is. Also, the jump to get out of the hole is very fun, especially with Phanto, who has no chance of catching you. 21. Parappa Palace Pro. So this one has 4 stages of quality. First stage is pretty boring and is like low-key hero, but now you have to walk back as well. A little more than 50 seconds in and it's becoming better. Still a little easy, but better, and you're doing quite a bit of actions now. About a minute and 30 in, and now it's pretty good with you defeating these enemies and jumping up the staircase to grab the key. 20 seconds after that, and now the level is really good with knuckle dusters in our way, skeletons blocking our path, and Goomba, who is an absolute turd, so it feels great to slash him. After that, we're in the boss fight with Mazura, which is a pretty good time, and then we can jump for the key, if you're not bad at the game like I am. So this one was tough to rank because a little less than half the challenge wasn't great, but for the most part, this challenge is enjoyable. 20. In Rhythm. It's kinda hard to find things to say about the Excitebike levels because all there really is to say is that they're fun, precise, and difficult. I just don't want to sound like a broken record, but yeah, this one's fun. 19. Hammer It Out. This one is awesome because you're just going around throwing hammers at moving thwomps. It's also funny because when you get to the Boom Boom fight, you can throw a hammer at him to defeat him before he even knows what hit him. Like, dang, poor guy, he didn't deserve that. 18. Check 1-2. Remember when I said that there were some Super Mario Bros. 3 challenges that were absolutely nuts? This is one of them, but since I'm not able to do it very fast, I'll just show you the world record by Akadesu, so big shoutouts to them. Need I say more? 17. 1-1 and done. This is the last Kirby level about 1-1 with all of the fun lag reducing techniques that we know and love from Exit Stage Right. After that you have this cool hill jump to do, and after that there's a lot of enemies to dodge, so this level's very enjoyable to play. 16. Hit the Bricks. This challenge is very creative and has various ways to complete the goal of breaking 20 brick blocks. 15. Meta Knight's Strike. There are several different ways to complete this challenge, so it's fun to test a new route and see if it's faster than the previous one. The fastest way is really enjoyable to play through, so overall this challenge is great. 14. Favorable Wind. Here we have a challenge that is very action-packed. Whether you jump down this way or run along the top, there are some pretty tricky jumps and it only gets harder. Now you're in a hallway and we can reduce lag by defeating some enemies. In this very chaotic part, we inhaled this enemy to destroy this block, inhale some more enemies, and some more enemies. 13. Monochrome Hero. This is just a really challenging and enjoyable level with a lot of stuff going on and a lot of stuff to do. Also, these exploding cats can go to hell. 12. Poppin' Wheelies. In this challenge, we pop wheelies. Who could have guessed that? This is just a really interesting level with some awesome jumps to do. 11. Overcome the Underworld. Here we've got a really great level to run through quickly. The hardest part is trying to get past these flying thingies and jump over this creature that comes out of the ground. We are down to the final 10 challenges. These are the best of the best, and it starts out with 10 Ace Balloonist. It's the first 3 levels of Balloon Fight, so it's pretty good. 9. Meta Knight Sword Fight. This is a very solid battle, with it starting out having the ability to fly in midair to get an immediate slash on Meta Knight. Switching between attacking and dodging is of course what you want from a good sword fight, so you have to have great focus to get a good time on this challenge, and I think that's awesome. 8. Elevator Blitz. This challenge doesn't miss a beat the whole way through. It starts out with 3 enemies that you can freeze to reduce lag, and these enemies coming out of pipes who you have to go under can also be frozen as well. Then there are a crazy number of enemies to shoot, dodge, or jump into. Then after shooting these Kraid and Ridley statues, you have to time going onto this bridge quickly, but not too quickly or else you'll fall into these blocks. After that, all there is to do is go down the elevator. 7. Labyrinth Champion. For this challenge, we play through all of the first dungeon in the game, and it's got a good variety of things to do and enemies to dodge and defeat. If you get these bombs from these moblins, then you can blow up Aquamentus and stab them for good measure, and then you can get a piece of the Triforce. Hooray! 6. Underworld Wonder. The movement through this dungeon is pretty fun, and it's interesting to try and figure out for yourself how many Centurions you want to save by breaking them free with your mallet. The Centurions can help you by shooting arrows at Twin Bellows. Whenever I had them, they died almost immediately, but the world record does a little better than me. Okay, maybe a lot better than me. If you're wondering, the number of Centurions the world record gets is 3, with the first 2 being decently challenging because of these eggplant wizards. Then the third one is the hardest because you have to go through the lava if you don't want to waste any time. 5. Extreme Terrain. This one has some very cool jumps to do and a lot of mud to avoid. I like this part where you have to not go on this first ramp and wait for the next one so that you don't crash out. 4. 1-1 Dream Run. It's the first level of Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, so it's pretty good, with some nice platforming, some demolition to try and perfectly time, and the Birdo fight. This one would be a little bit lower if it wasn't for 3 insane glitches that saves quite a bit of time that only the world record uses. The first glitch is the easiest to do, and the way to perform it is jumping right before you get to an enemy. If you did it close enough, you'll have a few frames where it's possible to jump in midair, essentially giving you a double jump. This puts you in the perfect spot to start glitch number 2, where we grab this magic potion and throw it onto the POW block. After that, you go into the door and go back out of it. Then if you press B at the correct time, you'll pick up the POW block, but it looks a little bit strange because Mario isn't holding the block. It just rests on his head as if he's got the best head balance in the world. Now, this block doesn't actually have any physical properties like it's a ghost block. You can't throw it, you can still pick up other items, and you can do a crouch jump without throwing the POW block. So normally you can't enter doors while holding items, but since the game doesn't read the data as you're holding an item, you can do another double jump to get up here so you can go in the door, and now the POW block is real and has physical properties. I don't really know why this glitch works, but it is pretty cool. With this POW block, we can initiate glitch 3, which is throwing the POW block and then quickly picking up this pink Shy Guy who immediately gets defeated because of the POW block. Now this might look like nothing happened, but if we break these blocks by using this bomb and then go through the door, we'll find that the data of us holding the Shy Guy was stored, and we come out of the door with the Shy Guy in hand. After that, we can jump up to the top of the screen, and now we're high above Birdo, so we can throw the Shy Guy at the ground at the right time to slow down the Shy Guy so that it's on the perfect trajectory to hit Birdo 3 times with one throw. This saves time over waiting for Birdo to spit 3 eggs at us. These glitches make the challenge amazing and a whole heck of a lot more intriguing. 3. Motocross Maestro. Here we have to do 2 laps around this course while doing some awesome jumps. It's a super good challenge, but what I find crazy is that the top 5 speedrun times clock in at 56, 52, 50.9, and 50.2. And then the world record holder FlyHec, this absolute legend of a man, basically said you're not even in the same universe as me and went almost 15 seconds faster and got a 35.7. He made some of the most wild jumps in the game to where he was in the air for longer than he was on the ground. He was jumping so high that the Excitebike guy went through the top of the screen back to the bottom of the screen. Evel Knievel's got nothing on Excitebike guy, and nobody comes close to the level of mastery that FlyHec has achieved. So for that, I salute you, good sir. 2. World 1 Wizard. Here we play through the 6 levels that we need to play to beat World 1 as well as the roaming hammer bro. We've already played through level 1, which we know is fun, and level 2, which we know is insane. And in level 1 you can hit this block with the Koopa shell and get a mushroom. It's pretty hard to do this without losing P-speed though, so you can also just grab the mushroom at the start and then gain P-speed a little bit later on, which is slower but easier. You can also grab the mushroom in 1-2 if you find that easier. The fortress is very challenging to get through, and the fire flower here is also pretty hard to get, but it's worth it because with the fire flower we can do this to Boom Boom. Dang. Level 4 is really satisfying to slide through, where at the end you have to slow down a little bit so that you don't get a 3rd star card, which wastes a lot of your time. Level 5 is pretty hard to do at the start and especially near the end because you have to jump on this Koopa to jump to the platform. After that we have the Hammer Bro, which is the same as in Hammer Bro KO. The airship is the only part of the level that I don't think is very successful because in a game about speed you're stuck waiting for the screen to scroll. It's still enjoyable, but there's not really any way to go fast besides staying to the right to go into the pipe immediately. To end the challenge, we torch Larry and turn the doggy back into a king. Number 1. The best challenge in Nintendo World Championships NES Edition is Mario Master. You most likely knew that this would be number 1, and I mean, what can I say? It's the 8 levels necessary to beat Super Mario Bros. There's a reason that Super Mario Bros. Any% has almost 10,000 submitted runs and countless attempts. It's the longest challenge in the game, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. After you complete a run, you feel encouraged to try again and refine your gameplay, since with such a lengthy challenge you're bound to have imperfections to correct for many attempts. It's even got some of the cool glitches that we know and love, like the flagpole glitch, the wall jump, and the bullet bill flagpole glitch, with sadly the pipe clip and wrong warps not being allowed. I could certainly see why people might disagree with this placement since this challenge is so long, but in my eyes there's no other challenge that I'd say is worthy of being called the best challenge in Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Well, thank you all for watching. This video was really fun to make, even though it did take me more than 2 months to finish with a more than 10,000 word script. So if you enjoyed the video, it would be greatly appreciated if you subscribed. Anyways, make sure to tell me in the comments how much you guys agree with my rankings, or you can tell me how stupid I am for my rankings. That's also cool. Yeah, have a great day.